Mummy. Okay, apologies first. I was planning on seeing this last week and getting a review up over the previous weekend. But I just sort of ran out of time, and I went to the Isle of Wight Festival on Saturday, mainly to see Arcade Fire headline. I'm a massive fan of Arcade Fire. So yeah, apologies first of all. This review is late, as well as my Baywatch review, which will be coming a little bit later on. So yeah, there was a lack of reviews last week, so I really do apologise for that. I'm really sorry. So yeah, The Mummy, directed by Alex Kurtzman. This is the first installment in the Dark Universe film series. This is Universal's attempt at creating a cinematic universe in which combines all of the classic, iconic characters and monsters like Dracula and Frankenstein and the Invisible Man. You know, this is going to be Universal's shared cinematic universe of all those iconic characters. And I'm looking forward to seeing what they do. I'm looking forward to seeing this, shared sort of universe of all of these classic creatures and characters. I'm quite excited for it. And I was sort of looking forward to The Mummy. The trailers didn't particularly blow me away. So the basic plot is an ancient princess. She's denied her destiny, and out of anger and jealousy, she murders her family. But she's caught just before performing a ritual. She's mummified for eternity, until Tom Cruise's character comes along and stumbles upon her tomb, accidentally unleashes her, and Tom Cruise himself becomes cursed throughout the duration of the film, and then so on and so forth. I just want to start off with saying I really liked and enjoy the old classic Universal horror movies starring Boris Karloff. And I even liked and enjoyed the 1999 The Mummy, directed by Stephen Sommers, and as well as The Mummy Returns, the one starring Brendan Fraser. I did enjoy those. I even liked Van Helsing. I enjoyed Van Helsing. But that's purely because they knew what they were. So first of all, let's talk about the actual mummy, or Princess Amanette. I think that's how you say her name. She's played by Sofia Boutella. I think that's how you say it. And I thought she played this character with elegance. I really liked how she played this character as the princess and the mummy. I thought she really sort of handled this character really well, and there was a certain amount of elegance to it, as well as horror and menace. I think she did a really good job at portraying this character. What I didn't like about the character, at the end of the day, this is a classic, iconic character. It's the Mummy. I didn't like the design. I really didn't like the design of this character at all. I just didn't like she got these little tattoos on her. Didn't like that. I didn't like the effect with the eyes. I didn't quite get what that was all about. I thought it looked very cheap. I thought the character was saved by Sofia Boutella's performance, but when it came to the design, I just really didn't dig it. Tom Cruise, I thought he gave a really bland and dull performance in this film. I just didn't care for his character, or any of the others. In fact, I didn't really care for any of the characters in this film, and they did attempt in moments to sort of inject some emotion. There was there were scenes in this film that required emotion, or for you to sort of be affected emotionally, and it really fell flat. And that was because that was as a result of the lack of character development and chemistry between the characters. I just didn't care for them, and their performances were really dull. So when it came to those moments which was meant to make you feel emotional and sad, it fell flat. It didn't work because you didn't care for the characters. Annabelle Wallis as Jennifer, an archaeologist. Her performance was very wooden. She may as well have played one of the undead. She was really very wooden. So when it comes to a film like The Mummy, I want some really old sort of classic, old-fashioned horror. And you do get a good attempt of that in this film. But then all of a sudden, in between the horror and the action and the adventure, you'd get this injection of humour, which just felt really out of place. It really stood out, the humour in this film. It was very silly and very stupid. I really don't know what they were thinking when it came to the humour. I really didn't like it. It was just really stupid, and it just sort of stood out. It didn't really blend well within the rest of the film. For example, I mean, you've got this moment with a character that sort of reoccurs during the film, and I'm just gonna call him the zombie friend. If you've seen the film already, hopefully you'll know who I'm referencing. And it just, in any sort of other film, I mean, if this was in a film, if the humour in this was in a movie like Shaun of the Dead, then I got it. I would have got it. But in this, it was like, what the hell are they doing? I mean, it wasn't even funny. It was like, it was making me cringe, because I'm thinking, I mean, is this actually a piss take? Or, I mean, what is it? And it just, yeah, I really didn't like the humour. I didn't understand what they were doing. It just didn't fit right within the rest of the film. So that leads me into the tone of the film. The tone of this movie is all over the place. It doesn't quite know what it wants to be, whatever it doesn't know if it wants to be a horror, a comedy, or an action adventure movie. They don't blend well together, because you've got it all. You've got the action, you've got the horror, you've got the comedy, but the comedy is sort of it's like on a, it's up there. Like, you've got the action adventure, which is the horror is there, and the comedy is all the way up there. So yeah, all of those elements, they really don't blend well, and so as a result, the tone is it's all over the place. It's like a mishmash of tones. The actual tone of the film is quite dark, and like I said, when they attempt the horror in this film, I kind of liked it. I liked what they did when it came to the horror aspect, as it is you could call it a morbid film and a dark movie, and sort of gritty in a way. But then you'd have this sort of injection of comedy, and humour, which just sort of felt very out of place. And you had a sort of an action adventure feel about it, but not as much as I wanted to have. I'm going to use an example of with Stephen Sommers' The Mummy, the 1999 Mummy. And that film knew what it was. It was a fun action adventure with humour that matched the film's tone. With a hint of horror. I mean, it had horror in it, but it wasn't really a scary film. It was more of an action adventure, but it knew what it was. But it was, it was more balanced. With this, the film sets off with its tone. You sort of get the tone of the film, but then you've got all the other sort of factors like the humour, and it just doesn't blend well. I mean, the film just didn't handle it well. It didn't balance it well. And so, as a result, I actually think Stephen Sommers' The Mummy is actually a better film than this. Because it knew what it was, and it handled itself better, and it balanced, it balanced itself better. The tone, it knew what it knew what it was. This film really didn't fucking know what it was. Nor did I, really, to be honest with you. Coming halfway through, I'm thinking, what the hell is this? What am I watching? I mean, I was really looking forward to The Mummy. Personally, I would have preferred a straight-up dark horror when it comes to these films, with some dark humour scattered throughout. But that's just me. I prefer films when they're darker. I'm just one of those people, really. It's like, I just prefer a really dark, gritty movie. And especially when it comes to The Mummy, I really wanted to see a straight-up, dark and gritty horror movie. And yeah, have a little bit of humour in it, but make it dark humour. But that's just me. So yeah, the film is certified a 15 over here in the UK. I'm not entirely sure what it is in America. Let me know below. But I have seen more violent and gory 12As than The Mummy. How this film was a 15, I will never know. Honest to God, I have seen more violent, more gory, really pushing the boundaries, when it comes to certificates and, violence and all of that. I have seen harsher 12As than The Mummy. It's almost as if they wanted to certify this film a 15 just for the sake of certifying it a 15, just to, get our message across to audiences that, look, this is going to be a really sort of bloody and gory and scary film. Go and see it because it's a 15. That's what it felt like, because there was nothing in this film that really jumped out and thought, oh yeah, I can see why this is rated a 15 now. I think this is the first time ever that I've actually seen a film that's rated anything above a 12A, and I've gone, I think this could have done with having its rating lowered. I think this is the first case for me. I've been into many movies with a 12A certificate, and I thought, ooh, they've really pushed the boundaries on this one. This should have been a 15. But in the case of The Mummy, they could have dropped it to a 12A. Okay, the script. The script in this film is terrible. Yes, the script, again, along with the humour, and it was just really, really bad. I thought the script was, in places I found it very bad and just really cringy. This is one moment which sort of combines an aspect of horror and humour. And it's a moment where Tom Cruise's character is walking up against towards the mummy, and he's going to sort of take her on. And you got the other character played by Annabelle Wallis, Jennifer, I think her name is, and she shouted at Tom Cruise's character, and she's shouting at Tom Cruise's character, go on, get her, and it was just the delivery of the lines even was like, oh. And actually, that moment was probably the funniest moment in the entire film. I sort of liked it, just to hear sort of Tom Cruise being flung for his bushes. I don't know why, I really found it funny. I don't know if it was because it was Tom Cruise. And I thinking back on it now, it was actually making me chuckle, but it's making me laugh for the wrong reasons. Again, it just didn't seem right. It didn't fit right. But yeah, the script in this film, really, really bad. I thought Russell Crowe as Dr. Henry Jekyll was great casting when I found out who he was playing. And I really dug his performance, actually, in this film. He was one of the better sort of performers when it came to the performance side of things. But like The Mummy, I was just not a fan of the design of the monster aspect of his character. Mr. Edward Hyde. His monstrous alter ego. I just wanted it to look more like something out of the Page Master. And that's what I thought we were actually going to get, because you get this sort of build up to it. And I'm like, oh, yes, it's coming. And then when it came in, it was like, oh, is that it? I was really sort of let down by the sort of look and the design of Edward Hyde, the monstrous side of Dr. Jekyll. It just looked very cheap. And it lacked vision and effect. That entire scene fell very flat, and I think it was as a result of the look of Edward Hyde. Russell Crowe, I thought, was really good. I was really digging his performance and what he was doing with it, but I just thought the look, I just really didn't like the look, and as a result, it was just like, oh. So overall, the film felt very flat and very empty and unoriginal, and it lacked real horror. I sort of liked the attempt of the horror, but it really didn't sort of, it wasn't scary or anything like that. It failed with the characters, I think, and it failed miserably at its attempt of whatever it was they were trying to attempt with the humour. But it's not all negatives, I have previously touched on positives. I do have some other positives within this movie, and it's more so to do with the look and the way the film was shot. I liked certain images and how certain scenes looked within the film and how they were shot, and that was more when it came to the horror aspects, the horror moments. So I liked the lighting, the colours, the shadows, and tone. When it comes to tone, it didn't really sort of fit in with the rest. It didn't fit in with the rest of the film purely because of what they were trying to do with the humour and all of that, with the action, and it just didn't fit in well. But I sort of liked the look of those moments, and especially when it comes to Sofia Boutella's performance as the mummy in those moments, I really sort of liked the look of it. you know, the way she would move. Like I said, going back to the sort of elegance that she gave this character. Yeah, I dug the look when it came to the horror aspect, but again, like I said, it just didn't fit in with the rest of the film. There's a moment early on in the film where the mummy first rises and claims her first victims, and in the way in which it moves during those moments where it's first, you know, it's rising, and I really sort of liked the look of how it moved and the way it moved. It was almost as if it was stop animation. I really dug it. I really dug what they did with that moment where, you know, especially, and you've got these other sort of the undead rising as well, and yeah, I really like the look of it. It looked very unworldly and sort of almost really sort of old-fashioned as well, because it had that, it sort of looked like stop animation. If you've seen the film, you might know what I'm referencing, and let me know below if you do. But yeah, I really dug the sort of look, well, the way it moved anyway, the way the mummy moved. The CGI in the film was okay. I think there was a overuse in certain moments where they could have relied more on practical effects. Like there's moments where you'd have Sofia Boutella's, you'd have her face, but then sort of the rest of her body is CGI, and the CGI wasn't really that great. It looked CGI'd, so it didn't really sort of blend well with the rest of her body. So the face, it looked sort of obvious, if you know what I mean. You could see it was obvious that the rest of her body was CGI and her face was real. It didn't sort of blend well, and so yeah, and they could have done without it. They could have used practical effects in quite a bit of this film, actually. They didn't really need to use the amount of CGI they did use, personally. The action scenes in the film, they were okay. They were enjoyable. They were well shot. They were entertaining, but they lacked weight, and again, that was because that's as a result of the characters. I just didn't care for the characters, the mission they were on, or their agenda. The climax of this film was very anti-climatic. It lacked any sort of impact and punch, and it just felt very, and it just felt very flat. It fell flat. So yeah, the climax was very anticlimactic. What would have made this film worked was if they'd retained what they were attempting with the horror aspect, take away what the fuck they were doing with the humour, take that away, just get rid of that fucking humour, throw some more action into the film, develop the characters a bit more, you know, make us care about these characters, flesh them out more, make them likeable, because I didn't really like any of them. I didn't like Tom Cruise's character. To be honest with you, I sat there and I'm thinking, what the fuck is Tom Cruise doing in this film? So yeah, I've done, you know, develop the characters more, flesh them out more, give us likeable characters, take away the humour, but retain what they were doing with the horror, and I think we would have had a better movie. As a result, we've got a mishmash of tones, a film that really didn't know what it wanted to be, and I just felt very I wasn't satisfied coming out of this film, which is a shame because I was looking forward to it, you know, and it just, like I previously said, I actually think Stephen Sommers' The Mummy is a better film than this, purely because it knew what it was and it did that very well. I actually went into this expecting more of a horror, and it just sort of, as a result of the tones, I just didn't quite get that. I could see there was potential in the film, like I said, you know, when it came to the horror element, but yeah, it was a big disappointment for me. But like I said, you know, it wasn't all negatives. There are some positives in the movie. And as a result, I will be giving 2017's The Mummy, the first installment of the Dark Universe, a D+. What did you guys think of The Mummy? The 2017 Mummy? Let me know below. Do you agree with what I said? Do you disagree with what I said? I'd love to know. So yeah, leave a comment below. And again, thanks so much for watching. I really do appreciate it. So yeah, again, thanks so much for watching. I really do appreciate it. And if you like what you see and you share the same passion, then why not hit subscribe?